Welcome to my video presentation. I have chose Library Information System Industry domain with an application list of TP Digital Library. First off, starting with the use case diagram. For a digital library system, there are two different actors, namely the admin and the librarian, that will be in charge of managing the digital library. Starting off with the admin role is to manage the accounts of all library patrons and library employees. The admin is allowed to find members' information to assist in the management of the user accounts, and also he or she is in charge of managing the book records in the library. Next, for the librarian, his or her role is to oversee the daily operational needs of the library, which may include managing of borrowed item, manage fines, reserve item, find members' information, manage book records. The difference between the admin and the librarian is, for the manage book records use case, the librarian is only able to find and update book status, and for the find members' information, the librarian is only able to find and view members' information. The customer in this context would be the digital library patron, which is able to borrow library item, return books, manage fine issue to them, recommend books to the library, reserve item. The digital library patron actor would have three different actors inheriting use case from it, namely the external members, lecturer, and the student actor. Of the three actors inheriting use cases from the digital library patron, the lecturers and student actor is able to do three additional use cases, which are document delivery, book library facilities, and access to online resources. Moving on, the first core use case is reserve item. It is triggered when an item is needed to be reserved. With the precondition of being logged in and primary actors, digital library patron and librarian, the main flow result would be item is reserved successfully, while the alternative flow are unable to find book, or primary actors reserve the wrong library item. For the reserve wrong library item alternative flow, the assumption here is that there is a switch item and change reserve item function for the user to change the item they have reserved wrongly to the right item. The second core use case is manage accounts. It is triggered when an admin needs to change information in the user account database. The assumption here for this core use case is that the admin needs to add new student records. Hence, with a precondition of being logged in, the main flow result would be student record is added successfully, while the two alternative flow are student unable to log in to the account after the student record has been added to the database, and student have existing records. Lastly, the domain model. Starting with the digital library patron, which means people who use the digital library. This class have three subclasses, namely the lecturer, student, and external members, inheriting attributes from it. Next, the admin class. The admin class manages the digital library patron and the librarian class. The multiplicity indicator for the three classes here is 1 for admin and 0 for the librarian and the library patron classes. This is because the admin class can exist without the digital library patron class or the librarian class. However, the librarian and the digital library patron classes cannot exist without the admin creating their accounts for them. Moving on, fines are paid by the digital library patrons when there is an overdue item. Since the fine class cannot exist without the digital library patron class, but the digital library patron class can exist without the find class. The multiplicity indicator here is 1 for the digital library patrons and 0 for the find class. Continuing, library items such as CD can be requested by the digital library patrons, and since the digital library patron can exist without a library item, but the same cannot be said for the library item, the multiplicity here is 1 for the digital library patrons and 0 for the library item, respectively. Next, the library item is managed by the librarian. In this relationship, the library item cannot exist without the librarian, hence the multiplicity indicator here is 0 for the library item and 1 for the librarian. Lastly, the librarian is in charge of issuing fines to library patron with overdue item. In this relationship, the librarian can exist without the fine class, but the fine class cannot exist without the librarian. Hence, the multiplicity indicator here is 1 for the librarian and 0 for the fine class. Here are my references. Thank you for your attention.